On this week's episode of the Campus Countdown, one study shows that grade inflation is leading to higher graduation rates, but students are not any brighter than they were 40 years ago. Also on this week's episode, we have an exclusive interview with Andrew Lee. And lastly, we will be discussing the question, is TikTok racist? I'm Addison Pummill, and you're watching the Campus Countdown. For our third top story of the week, a new study found higher graduation rates at universities, which they think is caused by widespread grade inflation. Researchers found that graduation rates and GPAs have risen significantly since 1988, whereas other measures of learning such as test scores did not show the same growth. The study says that the performance of 17-year-old students in reading and math has been essentially unchanged since the 70s. In fact, the study shows that students are actually worse at math today than they were in 1988. Which logically should lead to a decrease in graduation rates, not an increase. Now you might be saying, well, maybe students are just working harder, but that is false as well. The study shows that students are only spending an average of 27 hours a week on schoolwork, compared to the 40 hours that they were spending in the 1960s. So why then are graduation rates and GPAs increasing? Researchers concluded that this grade inflation may be linked to government incentives to push universities to lower requirements for a college degree. The study says, changing standards of degree receipt is a low-cost way to increase graduation rates. The lowering of standards in higher education really is a nationally concerning trend. In the last year alone, campus reform has covered numerous examples of this issue. For example, at the University of Pittsburgh, they now have a new G letter grade that lets students pass a class even if they've not turned in all of their assignments, quizzes, and tests. Also this year, the Oregon Department of Education said that math itself was an example of white supremacy because it focuses on getting the right answer. But isn't that what students are going to college to learn? How to get the right answer? It really is terrifying to think that today's architecture, engineering, and even medical students are graduating college with the idea that math is objective. Now, as a college student myself, it really is upsetting that the significance of my degree is being diluted by universities just wanting to increase their graduation numbers. We aren't in college to get a participation trophy and get out, which is essentially the effect that's created whenever colleges are lowering their standards for graduation. America can say goodbye to the days of working hard in class and getting a GPA that proves your effort, and hello to the era of the participation degree. For our second top story of the week, we have Andrew Lee joining us for an exclusive interview. Hi, Andrew. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
All right, well, tell us a little bit about what occurred at the UNT pro-life rally a couple weeks ago.
Well, a couple club representatives and myself drove to UNT expecting to go to a candlelight vigil for the unborn babies. And we showed up and there were different people from all around the states, met some people from Michigan, Baylor. It was nice meeting them. There was a small turnout from actual UNT students. It was a majority of protesters from UNT that were yelling in megaphones at us, throwing condoms everywhere, just setting up drum sets, making loud ruckus, and so
yeah. In a society that's so cognizant of hate speech, what does this say about UNT's pro-life rally? I mean, they were screaming, I've read a little bit about it, F your God. They were screaming, I love sacrificing babies. Is there a double standard for what hate speech is on higher education campuses?
I would say hate speech is a political tool used by the left to silence the right. And the left idea of hate speech has nothing to do with how hateful it is, but rather it prescribes to their progressive agenda. And things that were once considered fine to talk about or universal are now considered hate speech. Just look at gender or things like that. But just looking at Martin Luther King's idea of content of character rather than color of skin, that's a major. Things don't align. If conservatives were to do anything just to that extent or anything close to that, all liberals around America would protest.
Right, exactly. I think that's kind of where we see that double standard coming in, like those
Exactly.
students crashed your rally, and they were screaming hateful things at you guys. And of course, if that was on the other hand, if our side was doing that, it would be in the national news. People would be freaking out.
Exactly.
So as a student at the University of Dallas, do you feel that your views are equally represented, just not only by students, but by faculty and professors and staff as well?
Absolutely. University of Dallas is known to grow and foster independent thinkers, and the professors truly they support students formulating their own ideas and just having them come up with their own thoughts. And rather, if they agree or not, they still support the ideas. So.
That's really cool. I know that's definitely rare in higher education today. I think University of Dallas does do a really good job of giving you guys those critical thinking skills rather than just indoctrinating students, which is
Absolutely.
so common on campuses today. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Andrew. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
For our top story of the week, San Diego State University asks the question, is TikTok racist? On November 3rd, students at San Diego State attended an event called Your Costume, My Culture, TikTok Edition, to examine what the speakers called a new form of digital racism and cultural appropriation. The event description says, are these just jokes or are they forms of racism? Come share your opinion and join the discussion. The event followed the normal agenda of leftists this holiday season, warning students not to dress as anything that could come across as racially or culturally insensitive. But the more interesting idea from this event is that TikTok itself is spreading racism. For any of you who are not TikTok users, the general idea of the app is to make your own short videos using borrowed audio clips, which TikTok calls sounds. These sounds can come from movies or songs or TV shows, and users can even reuse audio clips from another user talking. Now, we know that cancel culture is spread through higher education like wildfire, and since social media has had such a huge impact on the spread of cancel culture, TikTok is not exempt. As a TikTok user myself, every single day I see users being canceled for participating in trends and even just using sounds that are from Black content creators. For example, there was a recent trend saying, "I get it from my mama," to show off the tan of a user's skin, and it was used by both Black and white content creators in the beginning. However, as white creators started to use this trend more, the TikTok community suddenly accused them of blackfishing and decided that this trend was only able to be used by Black creators. There were also numerous comments on the white creators' videos telling them that they're not allowed to use the song in any video at all. A 2020 article in The New Yorker called "The Whitewashing of Black Music on TikTok" perfectly describes this idea of gatekeeping certain sounds and trends. The article says that white content creators should not be allowed to use Black music or Black sounds in their videos because the recognition goes to the creators instead of acknowledging the origin of the sound. The article says, it can be somewhat unsettling to see niche, largely Black music being co-opted by white influencers in the name of clout. TikTok is being used to justify cancel culture in higher education as well. Last year, Campus Reform reported on a University of Texas San Diego student who was kicked out of her sorority for posting an All Lives Matter sign on her personal TikTok account. The student said, "I don't believe I was treated fairly whatsoever in this situation. Keep in mind, I wasn't even the one holding the sign." Our woke tweet of the week comes from a professor at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign who posted a tweet asking her fellow racism scholars to share common euphemisms for racism. Dozens of other professors replied to this tweet with words and phrases that they consider racist. Among countless others, the so-called racist phrases included intellectual freedom, data, fair process, diversity of thought, religious freedom, and parental rights. However, my favorite comment was from one PhD student in California who wants to actually cancel the phrase cancel culture. Well, those are all the stories we have for you this week. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. To follow along with all of the liberal abuse in higher education, make sure to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Campus Reform. Tune in next week for another episode of the Campus Countdown. I'm Addison Pummill. Thanks for watching.